Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Today we are going to study the topic positive feedback. In the previous lecture, we have started the topic feedback mechanism in homeostasis. So there are two types of feedbacks: negative feedback and positive feedback. But still there is another third type of feedback which is called harmful positive feedback. So we have divided this lecture in three parts: negative feedback, positive feedback, and harmful positive feedback. So we have already studied the first part, that was negative feedback. Today we are going to study the positive feedback. Now, dear students, remember in biology, positive term means that whenever something is increased, or whenever something is enhanced, or whenever something is amplified. So positive feedback basically takes place to enhance the output or the change, to amplify, to increase the change, the output. So whenever some process is in progress in the body, so there is the result of that process. So in this positive feedback, that result is basically enhanced, or in other words amplified, in order to carry out that process more quickly with the high speed. So this is positive feedback. Now we will explain this positive feedback from example. For instance, whenever the baby suckles the nipples of the mother, so that suckling is basically a stimulus. That stimulus, that information is transmitted by nerves to the hypothalamus part of the brain. The hypothalamus contains neurosecretory cells which produce the hormone oxytocin. That oxytocin hormone is stored in the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. So whenever the baby suckles the nipples of the mother, so the stimulus is transmitted to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus orders the pituitary gland, the posterior pituitary lobe, from which the oxytocin hormone is released. The hormone oxytocin is circulated through blood. When it reaches to the breast, it acts on the target cells of the breast. The mammary glands are there in the breast. So those mammary glands are for the milk production and release. For each nipple, there are 12 ducts. So wherever the oxytocin hormone reaches to the target cells in the breast, so those cells are activated. As a result of that signal of the oxytocin, the target cells release the milk, and that milk is sucked by the baby. So whenever the milk production starts, and this is again you can say a stimulus for the baby, so the baby will further suck more the nipples, and as a result this message will be again transmitted to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus will again order the posterior pituitary lobe, and again more oxytocin will be released, and as a result more signal will be transmitted to the target cells of the breasts, and as a result more milk will be released. So in this way, this suckling process, this is an example of positive feedback, that whenever the result is enhanced, the suckling process is enhanced, so as a result the process occurs more quickly and more milk is released for the baby. Let's take another example, that is during childbirth. This is another example of the positive feedback. During the childbirth, the baby's head exerts pressure on the cervix. The cervix is the bottom part of the uterus, and the baby will pass through the cervix, the opening which is present there in the cervix. So whenever the baby head touches the cervix, it exerts pressure on the cervix. The neurons are already present there in the cervix, so the nerves will transmit this touching signal to the brain, the hypothalamus part of the brain. The hypothalamus will send message to the pituitary gland, the posterior part of the pituitary gland, the posterior lobe. The posterior lobe will release the oxytocin hormone. This oxytocin hormone will circulate through the blood and will reaches to the uterus. When it reaches to the uterus, so it increase the contractions of the uterus. So as a result, the baby is slowly and gradually pushed through the opening of the uterus in the cervix area. So signal will be again transmitted to the brain. The contractions will increase slowly and gradually, and this message will be again transmitted to the brain, the hypothalamus. Then further oxytocin will be released by the posterior pituitary lobe, and as a result further contractions will increase. These are called labor pains. So the labor pains will increase till the birth of the baby. So dear students, this is the end of the second part of this lecture. Inshallah, we will study the third part, the harmful positive feedback, in the next lecture. Inshallah, take care.